Good evening, afternoon, Nerd Nation, and welcome to another Jettison podcast. It's been a long time. I hope you enjoyed my meltdown the last time we were on. And this time, we're not going to be talking anything other than wrestling, other than Chris Benoit. We are talking about the Dark Side of the Ring documentary, which was out not too long ago, and all the unravelings from that. I have today with me Jason, also I like to call him Roberto, our usual person, and we have a new person, and that is Jose DHosea. David, you want to call him that as well, or Jose, however you want to call him. Us three, we were once part of a little contingent called the Wrestling Revolution, and it's good that if at least three of us from that revolution are back talking about this. This is what we like to talk about. I'm not really much of a wrestling fan anymore, but I do remember this, and I remember this very well. It's still fresh in the memory. So, hello, gentlemen. How are you guys?
I'm good. Doing well. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm good.
You're welcome, Jose.
Getting ready for this hot topic.
No problem. Okay, so I hope some of you guys have seen the documentary. It was absolutely fascinating. It was two-parter, narrated by Chris Jericho. And the funny thing is, I just want to get straight off the bat, I never really knew how deep Chris Jericho was with these guys, because he was like a young pup, really, when these guys were still doing their thing. And, he kind of was under their wing, but he was a little bit in the background. I know he was ECW, WCW. I really didn't know he was that much involved with these guys. But we found out, obviously, through the course of the documentary, he was. Obviously, you had a contingent of people, Dean Malenko, Chavo Guerrero, those particular people around all of this who knew it really well. Vicky Guerrero, of course, obviously, and they all chime in, as well as other ex-WWE guys like Chris Nowinski and JR. Chris Nowinski was actually quite fascinating, but I still remember him, and he seemed like somebody who had a bright future. But you know what? I'm glad he's doing what he's doing now. He has a PhD and all of that. That was quite fascinating. But Chris Jericho narrating this, that was a great start to the show. I found it quite enthralling at the beginning. Hello, on the chat. Did you guys, just overall of the documentary, I know I shouldn't be mentioning this so soon, but before we start going into bits and bobs, did you guys, were you really totally into this documentary? You couldn't keep your eyes off it, following every word, every bit. I mean, it was such a long time ago, but it's still quite fresh in our memories. Did you follow it well, the documentary? I'll start with you, Jose.
Yeah, I really, was into it, and I know that Jericho met Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, I think on a tour of Mexico or Japan, not sure where, in the early '90s. And when you stop to think about it, it felt like we were getting a 2-in-1 episode with Eddie Guerrero also being mentioned. So it's kind of a double episode if you look at it, because it felt like the first part was covering Eddie, and then the second part is when they really got into Chris Benoit. So I thought it was fascinating all the way through.
Yeah, me too.
It was definitely very fascinating. It was definitely informative. A lot of the information I kind of already knew, but it was nice to kind of see some of the Jim Ross talking about it, and the wrestler Chris, the wrestler with the PhD, not Chris Jericho, but the other one,
Chris Nowinski.
Yeah. It was interesting listening to him talk about it, because with my background, I deal with a lot of TBI and traumatic brain injuries, and if I knew then what I know now, and actually watching some of the footage that they were showing, I'm like, oh my God, this is typical TBI behavior. It is, super. So it actually there were a lot of red flags there that I just didn't. I wouldn't have seen back then, but seeing them now, I'm like, oh my gosh, this was, we can get into more later, but the writing was kind of on the wall with that one.
At the beginning, they mentioned certain things like who his influences were, Harley Race and Dynamite Kid. Actually, I never really picked up on it, but him and Dynamite Kid, they're pretty much clones of each other, and you could see Harley, they mentioned at the beginning of the documentary, Harley Race, he started off with this flying headbutt thing. and he told people not to do it. Obviously, Dynamite Kid decided to do it, and now the poor guy is in a wheelchair. He's still with us, isn't he, Dynamite Kid? I might have forgotten that he's passed away or not.
He passed away.
Yeah, he passed away in it. Yeah, I thought he did. I apologize about that. But he ended up in a wheelchair before dying, and obviously, you see what happened with Chris Benoit. He's following suit, and it led to a lot of trauma, in his brain because of that. The diving headbutt, chair shots, it all added to, as well as obviously Eddie dying and everything. But we'll get into all of that. But it all culminated into so many things. But it was good to see some of his early influences. And we also found out more about his partner, Nancy Benoit, who unfortunately him and his kid and their kid Daniel, they were kind of lost in all of this, because even though we knew that they were dead, we never really knew much about them. We never really got to learn more about them. All the focus was on Benoit. How could he do this? This guy we loved and stuff like that. It was good to see more about Nancy. It was good to know more about Benoit's family, how he felt, how much he loved his kids. And it was, the early on part of this documentary was quite interesting to see what endeared him to become who he was. What do you guys think of all of that? Did you were putting the pieces together at the beginning of this documentary regarding some of his influences?
Go ahead, Jason.
I'll start with you. Yeah, go on, Rebecca.
A lot of, listening to, as I said, hindsight is 2020, and like listening to all of these factors build up. Was it Harley Race and the Dynamite Kid? All of them were saying, don't do this move. Is it a spectacle move? Yeah, because you're jumping off the freaking top rope and you're hitting them with your head. But even those people were, saying, don't do this move. It jacks you. And and listening to some of the early parts of the documentary, listening to the parts about Benoit and Kevin Sullivan, I've got some interesting views on Benoit, and I'll get into those maybe in a little bit if the topic comes up. But this is the definition of a tragedy, like it really is. So, and that's kind of why I call it the Benoit tragedy. I don't call it the Benoit double homicide or double homicide,
whatever they call it.
Yeah. It is. That is exactly what it is. But at the same time, it's also a tragedy because this, in my opinion, this could have been prevented. And so why don't you go ahead, DH?
Okay, well, I think with the diving headbutt, with Harley Race saying, "Yeah, hey, don't do it. This is going to mess your spine up." Dynamite Kid does it, and like Zam just said, he ended up in a wheelchair before he passed away on his 60th birthday. And then Benoit goes and does it, and you don't think anything of it at first, but then over time with the headbutts, and then also not to mention, I think we may be jumping ahead, if that's okay, but to the part where they were talking about chair shots, where in the 90s, you just did it. You did it for the honor because that's what you did. You look at guys like Tommy Dreamer, guys that took chair shots to the head over and over again, and you wonder, what's the level of CTE that they have? You wonder, what's their quality of life going to be in the world? And with Benoit, you could kind of see the signs coming, but the question was when, and you got to wonder what his frame of mind was, if anything.
Yeah, totally. You mentioned, I almost forgot him, by the way. I'm so glad you brought him up. Kevin Sullivan. Here's a particular guy who was pretty much at the end of his career when I started to get into wrestling. He was the person who founded Nancy Benoit, became woman. And sorry, I apologize. She wasn't woman under him, was she? She became woman in the WWE, I believe, or was it WCW?
WCW.
But he was. She was still a woman in WCW, and she, I think, switched over to him during their tenure in WCW.
Yeah, Kevin Sullivan, if I remember right, booked his own divorce. As they
yeah. Well, they said that was beautiful. I had no idea about all of this shit. It was fascinating.
Yep.
That I didn't know. I knew that Kevin Sullivan was married or was dating or married or whatever to Nancy. But then I didn't know that basically they booked like DH said, he booked his own divorce.
Yeah.
I mean, the same thing happened with Triple H in China, like, you know, with the whole Stephanie McMahon thing. They, you know, Vince basically booked his daughter's next husband, or his first husband or only husband.
Yeah, there's been a lot of love triangles in WWE. Something similar but different is Hardy and Edge. So there's always been a love triangle of some sort. But this one I didn't know about. It happened obviously such a long time ago, before, when I was very young, totally unaware of all of this shit. But it brought Nancy and Chris together because Kevin was also. I mean, it wasn't just because them two were together in an angle that they somehow fell in love. Kevin Sullivan was an asshole towards Nancy Benoit. He treated her like shit, and and obviously Chris didn't like that. And when they had a match at Bash at the Beach, he really bashed that fucking guy and then apparently broke his eardrum in a match, which is fascinating. I had no idea about that, but you could tell Benoit wanted to beat the shit out of him. It's amazing. So just to go on a little tangent here, it's amazing when you think about wrestlers who've got real beef with each other, how they can stay professional in that ring, like Hardy and Edge. I couldn't believe they actually had a match. You know what I mean? I thought every time Hardy grabbed hold of him, he was going to fucking kill him, but that wasn't the case. But yeah, what are you going to say?
Oh, what was there an affair going on? Or did they say if there was an affair, or was it?
Yes.
There was an affair going on with Benoit and Nancy?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I know that she left Sullivan for Benoit, but I didn't know if the affair had started prior to that. So
yeah, I guess it was.
Kevin Sullivan was hitting on her.
No, I know, and as I said, I wouldn't blame her for leaving him if the affair started before or after that, like after she left him. Well, it wouldn't be an affair if she left him, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, so, I think it was all going on while the angle was actually taking place. And it's like, Randy Savage used to say, I booked my angle and a wife one time, or my wife was part of an angle one time. I don't have a wife anymore. And it's crazy how these things like that can happen in the wrestling industry.
Yeah. So after that particular angle was over, I think those obviously Nancy and Chris became an item, and Chris's son from a previous relationship, David Benoit, all joined. They all came together as a family while I was born, and they all were living lovely together and stuff like that. And then he was going to Japan, I believe. Did he meet Eddie? He got to know Eddie in Japan, and this was like this was the funny thing, because like this is like these guys were the influence for Chris Jericho. You had the Pegasus Kid, who I believe was Eddie Guerrero. You had Tiger something or other.
No, Tiger Mask was Eddie, and Pegasus Kid was Benoit.
Oh, Pegasus Kid. I apologize. Thank you for correcting me there, Jose.
Yep.
Chris Jericho mentioned that when he first came on the scene, he wanted to be like that. He wanted to be named after animals, so he called himself Lionheart. Chris Jericho. All of these things I had no. I'm so glad that I got to learn these fucking things. But in Japan, smaller guys kind of ruled a little bit because they were more agile, more athletic. And it's funny that in wrestling, that these guys who could be anything, say between 5'10" and 6'2", are looked upon as small guys in the wrestling industry, even though they're fucking jacked. I mean, Chris Benoit is fucking jacked. You know what I mean? Beyond belief. And they're looked upon as fucking small guys. It's absolutely crazy. And they're so agile and stuff like that. And they can do a whole bunch of... Chris Benoit was if he wanted to, I think Chris Benoit could do a high-flying type of wrestling maneuvers if he wanted to, but he's always the more technical guy. He's very versatile. I remember... was it JR once said, like Benoit could do anything. He can brawl with you as well. He can do it all. And these guys were stealing the show. And they came into... I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm so sorry for yabbering on all the time. Roberta, what would you like to say?
Oh, no, I was just letting you know that I was going to say something when you were done. But, no, I mean, that's...
Okay, no, go on, continue.
What?
No, go on.
I mean, but that's why... Benoit is my second favorite wrestler of all time. And... one of the things that and I'm afraid to say that sometimes because of what he did, but I mean, there's tons of wrestlers out there. Bret Hart is my number one favorite wrestler of all time. Number two has always been Chris Benoit. And although what he did, and I know that's jumping ahead, but what he did is unforgivable. but he was one of the best technical wrestlers in the industry, and he was always on his A game. You know, like, you know, I saw videos of him in this documentary when he was at home, and I mean, he was wearing a neck brace. You know, like, I mean, this dude was giving his life for this industry. And I mean, that's essentially what stemmed this from is, you know, all of that brain damage, because a lot of you know, the part of the documentary when they're talking about the brain damage, I mean, a lot of your decision and emotional center is right here, right in the front. It's in your frontal lobe. And that's damaged severely. So, you know, why are we surprised when, you know, everyone says, oh, roid rage. And it's like, no, this dude needed help. He needed to, and I mean, I hate to say it, but he needed to stop wrestling. He needed to get help. And honestly, I mean, his brain was basically done for at that point. It's, you know,
his brain was basically applesauce. Because like I said, you know, when you consider taking all those headbutts, all the chair shots, and not to mention, you know, Benoit, he probably did do steroids, as a lot of guys did back then.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, there's no denying
Eddie's death as well.
Yep, Eddie did as well. And, you know,
yeah,
Benoit,
but Eddie's death is, yeah. I mean,
what?
Eddie's death as well, like I said, it's a mix, you know. You throw Eddie's death in that.
Yep.
I think Eddie's death was the thing that tipped him over the edge, you know, personally. I mean, he was already close to the edge, but the Eddie's death was like, whoa, that's it, you know.
Like Jericho said, when Eddie passed, that was his fate. It didn't matter what time it was, how long it was going to be. Benoit's fate was already pretty much predetermined when the day Eddie passed. Like, he lost a part of himself. Like, we've all been through that, where we've all lost a relative, or we've all lost a loved one, where it's like, wow, things are never going to be the same again because we lost this significant person. And Eddie was that for Chris. I truly believe that.
Well, I just want to mention Mondino here. He says, this is almost like saying you can't like Michael Jackson because of his passing. Yeah, I have to agree. You know, like when the Michael Jackson song comes on, I sometimes forget what he's done. You know what I mean? His music is so fucking great. And
yeah, you forget the shit that he did half the time when you listen to his music.
Yeah. People almost, you know, Kevin Spacey, one of the best actors of all time, a scumbucket. But, you know, if I watch something like Seven or Usual Suspects, I'll still appreciate his performance, you know, even though he's a wanker. But, okay. So where were we? Okay, so obviously New Japan, then they come into the WWE. The friendship between him and Eddie was what we start to focus on now. We got to learn more about Eddie Guerrero. Vicky Guerrero, by the way, I was really looking forward to a lot of her insight. If anybody would have a lot to know about this, as well as Chavo, Vicky, Chavo, Dean Malenko, those are the three people I wanted to hear from the most, and we did in this. And just hearing everything about Eddie Guerrero, we're going to focus on Eddie, if you don't mind, a little bit. And how he was doing lots of drugs, and he was, you know, like things like him passing out and like not finishing conversations and falling asleep on people. I had no fucking idea this was going on with Eddie Guerrero. But, you know, with the brutal schedule of the WWE and just wrestling being brutal as it is, and these guys never getting a break and being too afraid to ask for time off because it makes them look weak or they might lose their spot and shit like that. You know, it's no wonder so many wrestlers fucking die young. You know, when you heard about Chavo Guerrero and how Eddie died in his arms, I had no idea. I thought they found Eddie dead. I had no idea he still had a bit of life left in him, and he died in his arms. I mean, I couldn't believe what I was listening to. It was amazing and so terrible at the same time.
Yeah,
Jose, what do you think?
Like David Benoit said, you know, I really wish that WrestleMania 20 would have been it for both of them, because had they retired shortly thereafter, the outcome of everything may have been different. And I truly believe that. Like, I wish that both of them would have got to ride off into the sunset in 2004, 2005 and retire and rest their bodies, or, you know, take time off. But like you said, so many wrestlers are scared to lose their spots. So many wrestlers are scared to say no to Vince McMahon. They're afraid to walk on eggshells. And it's just a crazy business that, you know, we all love, man, or loved at one time. And,
yeah.
You know, with Eddie, it's just unbelievable. that he went and he did. And
well, that's
sorry, go on.
That's just incredible because these guys were so talented. Like they were. I mean, in hindsight, did they both win championships? Yes, but it's like, were they severely underutilized compared to their talent? Yes. Like, I mean, Benoit should have been a champion many times over. He should have always been in the spotlight, and then like John Cena, been able to take time off to recover. The reason why is because those guys were the workhorses of the WWE, WCW, ECW, and below. Like, they were the workhorses. And honestly, at that point in their career, like at WrestleMania 20, they should have been in the limelight, never left. And I'm not saying they have to be champions all the time like Cena. I'm just saying,
main event at least.
They should be main eventing all the time, not going for tag belts and intercontinental United States belts and shit like that. Like, Benoit had like a United States feud with Booker T. Two guys right there that should have been going for world championships is Benoit and Booker T at that point. And it's just like, no, because back then you had to have guys like Lesnar and Batista and all
Cena and Lashley and all the big muscle heads.
And even Lashley was okay. I don't mind muscle heads being in there, but they can't monopolize the whole thing, So
you have to divide it, and you have to have something for everyone. You can't just cater to one small segment of like, okay, yeah, we like the big muscle guys. Okay, that's great, but what else do you have?
And I really feel like
you can't just rely on like John Cena and Randy Orton.
Yeah, and I really feel like and I really feel like the only person who broke through that glass ceiling, who was actually a good technical wrestler, well, there's two people, is Bret Hart, who, because he went to WCW when he did, probably tanked his career.
Became nothing.
And Kurt Angle. Those are the only two smaller technical wrestlers that I can think of that actually broke that ceiling, who stayed pretty much main eventers.
Yep.
Daniel Bryan.
I still think he's being, I mean, I don't watch it currently, but I still think he's being underutilized. From what I hear, I don't watch it consistently, so I can't comment on him too much. But I mean, I know he's great.
Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, both of them broke the ceiling at one point for sure.
CM Punk was not he was a main eventer for maybe a year, and
dude, he had the title, still got the longest rating title run in the WWE, and he and he's main evented pay-per-views. He's been WWE champion after that ECW pay-per-view. Was it the ECW pay-per-view?
When he was supposed to wrestle Chris Benoit for the title. Yeah. Okay,
and he wrestled John Cena. I
had a thought
that
I was going to say.
Go on.
Okay, here's how I see Benoit and Guerrero. Like, Jason just said, both should have been in the limelight. Both should have never left. Here's how they were booked. They wrestled like champions, but felt like mid-carders, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yep.
That's how the industry treated them. Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
But you can throw Chris Jericho in that mix. You can throw Chris Jericho in that mix as well. He broke the ceiling for sure.
Yeah, Jericho got over.
And he's only main evented one WrestleMania, and he lost.
But that's what I'm saying. He only main evented one WrestleMania, and he wasn't even the final match on the card.
Actually, the one where he fought Blade.
I mean, how they've been booked in overall in wrestling, and Jericho, without a doubt, has broken that ceiling. I mean, the guy is top tier. Every time WWE needs a boost, they get Chris Jericho back.
Or rather they had Chris Jericho, but point taken.
Oh yeah, not anymore. They can't go back there again. The guy who constantly reinvents himself.
Yep.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say something.
No, that's it.
All right, man. We're following you. So where do you want to go?
Okay, no problem. I wanted to add a lot earlier that not just the Benoit thing, but just wrestling overall. I just don't like how the business is run. And as well as the product just being really shitty recently. And when I was doing my rants back in the day with Mondino, who was my fucking right hand man, thank you Mondino in the chat. If it wasn't for him, the rants would never fucking happen. But I was always threatening about not watching that shit anymore, and now I don't. It's all voyeurism with me. I keep an eye on things, but I really don't go out of my way to watch anything anymore. Like the only last time I watched any wrestling of any significance was the recent SmackDown just because of the coronavirus incident and there being an empty arena. I was curious, but I don't give a. Prior to that, I never gave a flying fuck. Anyway, let's continue with the documentary. So Eddie has died, and I was then interested in knowing the reactions of people like Chavo Guerrero and
Vicky
and Vicky Guerrero, because it was really interesting to see that if it wasn't for Nancy Benoit, as well as the WWE, you got to give WWE credit. They really did fucking look after Vicky Guerrero, and they made her into a superstar. I'm going to go on a tangent here. Vicky Guerrero, one of the fucking best women in wrestling of all time.
Underrated,
honestly,
extremely
so underrated. She got heat like nobody could, man. No wrestler could get.
Not even Stephanie McMahon got
fucking amazing. You know what I mean?
Not even Stephanie McMahon got heat like her.
And I think the heat started coming. The heat started coming when she was making out with Edge, and people couldn't fucking believe it.
Yep. I remember those days.
Man, I couldn't watch it. I never get so fed up.
Manicures and pedicures.
Edge needs a fucking medal for that, man. But nevertheless, Vicky Guerrero used to be really fucking hot, man. You know what I mean? But obviously, things change. But nevertheless, Nancy Benoit saved Vicky Guerrero. Nancy Benoit helped Vicky Guerrero. Like the lovely things you hear, like what Nancy Benoit, she became like a mother to everybody. Just being a big hug for everybody, trying to help everybody. Unfortunately, though, she couldn't help her husband. And when you hear stories of like Benoit's house and going to Eddie's bed and holding the pillow, Jesus fucking Christ, you would have thought Benoit was his wife. You know what I mean? It was unbelievable. I mean, I know they were really fucking close, but that was amazing. And the funny thing is, it's not like Benoit didn't have a lot of people around him to get him through this, which is kind of remarkable when you think about it. You had Malenko, you had Chavo, you had Vicky, you had Nancy, you had so many wrestlers. Regal was really tight with them. Jericho was really tight with them. There was a lot of guys, Booker T. There was a lot of people they could have confined in, and I'm surprised, there were, he didn't get as much support as people believe he should have got from his peers.
Yeah, but, because Benoit was always, he kind of had, a lot of wrestlers said this, like I think after the fact, that Benoit always had that certain mystique about him. Like there was always something off-putting about him, but you could never figure out what it was. Nobody could ever figure out like if he was really truly okay. Like Bret Hart, I saw him on Larry King talking about it after the events happened, and he was like, Benoit was the kind of guy where you could talk to him and then he would disappear like mid-conversation, like Houdini, like he wasn't always there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And not that I want to speculate on the past, but on the people who have passed. But I mean, watching a lot of the footage and everything, as I said, hindsight being factored in, I wonder if there was something going on between Chris and Eddie. Like, I mean, like, because, you saw, Vicky would say that she came home and, like, Chris would be up in there on Eddie's side of the bed with his pillow crying. Wow. It's just like, and as I said, and if they did, that's fine. But I feel like
you wonder if there was something there.
Basically. Yeah. I mean, if they have that great of a friendship, then I'm happy that they had that great of a friendship. But it's like, I was listening to a lot of this going, there had to have been something more than just, I mean, Chris Benoit took the death of Eddie harder than Vicky did. I mean, Vicky took it hard, don't get me wrong. Chris took it even worse. So it's almost like,
really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it does. I mean, look, like Mondino in the chat here is my best mate, by the way. And if he passed away for whatever reason, I would be absolutely fucking devastated, beyond fucking belief. But I can't see myself ever going down Benoit's route. I lost my mum. A few years ago, and I was beyond devastated. But at the same time, I had a bit of Nancy Benoit in me because I was thinking about my dad. My dad was so fucking lost that it was very hard for me to grieve, knowing that my dad was in so much pain, and anyway, sorry, I'm going on something else here. I do apologize, but I so much props to Nancy for taking so much on the shoulders, you know, regarding all of this, you know, regarding Eddie's death. It was, you know, and I like, once again, back to Vicky Guerrero, like, to see her turn her life around. I mean, I'm so happy for her. I really am. You know, I'm really fucking happy because she went through more tragedy than most people could fucking imagine. You know, because obviously not just Eddie, but Chris, Nancy, Daniel. You know, I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. You know, in the space of 12 months. Jesus,
I don't know about you
Christ,
guys,
man.
but the most heartbreaking thing I heard was when Vicky said that Eddie OD'd, and she just asked God, like, she just left him there.
Yeah.
She just said, God, if this is it, take him. Please take him. That fucked me up. That
well,
really
but I
did.
mean, it's kind of the truth. It's like, I mean, there's a point where you're either going to, you know, and as I said, I mean, there are times where you have to, and I'm going to steal a line from Mordo from Doctor Strange, but the check comes due, and based on your choices in life, sometimes the check comes due. And I mean, that's kind of what happened with Eddie Guerrero. And unfortunately, like, I loved Eddie. Eddie was one of my favorite wrestlers. Also, he would definitely be in my top 10, maybe even top 5. But
yeah, we
pick their bodies up all the time, and they're the workhorses. And this is what happens.
yeah.
Yeah, it does. But what you said regarding Chris and Eddie having an actual sort of romance, I'm not against that, because you know what, it does almost make sense, and I never even thought of that, but it makes sense.
What I was saying
he
is,
fucking loved Eddie. He fucking loved him, man. But look at Chavo Guerrero. I mean, they were practically brothers. I know nephew and uncle, but they were practically fucking brothers. You know,
I always thought they were
Guerrero
brothers
should have been distraught. Should have been absolutely. You know, they were, you know, and look at Chavo's gone. You know, look at Chavo as well, man. Like how he's supporting David and David Benoit, and I mean, so more props to them. Both Guerreros, so much fucking. You know, I mean, they got through this. You know, and the way they, you know, all this shit that's gone with them. You know, you could imagine Chavo fucking jumping off a bridge, or fucking Vicky trying to end herself after what Chris did. You know, so yeah, a lot of props, but you know, when we'll just go into the incident now, but obviously a lot of people were talking about the distance Chris was going through, and you know, they tried to help him with a journal and stuff like that, but it didn't help. And then it was a particular pay-per-view. What pay-per-view was it? Was it Vengeance?
Night of Champions. Yep, Vengeance Night of Champions. The one where he was
supposed to fight
CM Punk and win the ECW title.
And it ended up being John Morrison.
Yep.
Who was at the time he was Johnny Nitro, or was he and he became John Morrison the next day, I believe, after he won the title.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, so he never turned up. I was totally oblivious to all of this, by the way. Were you like kind of surprised that? Did you watch the pay-per-view? Were you kind of surprised that Benoit didn't turn up? Were you wondering what happened to him or anything like that?
Go ahead, Jason.
I mean, I remember watching that pay-per-view, and I thought that Benoit was just sick or something. So they had to make a last-minute replacement for John Morrison, and Johnny Nitro. I liked him as a wrestler, so I was okay with it. And I just thought Benoit was like sick, or, you know, something going on. You know, it was unusual for him, but I mean, I didn't think anything of it until all of a sudden the news reports started coming out the next day.
I remember, like, okay, I don't think I watched the pay-per-view at the time, but I remember, like, hearing on the websites they're seeing, like, you know, Nancy and Daniel are sick, they're coughing up blood, they're food poisoning. It was a lot of conflicting stories. And then the next day, well, when we jump into that in a minute, the whole world changed, basically. But I thought really not much of it at the time. I just thought, like, oh, man, I hope the family's going to be okay, at the very least.
Now, sometimes you can remember where you were when certain things happen. I remember where I was when Diana died. I remember where I was regarding the World Trade Center and the being hit by the planes. I remember where I was when we had our own terrorist incident in 7/7 in London. But I don't remember where I was when Eddie died. I don't remember where I was when Benoit died. So I can't really give you any insight. But what about you guys?
I remember the Benoit day. I remember everything I was doing the day Benoit happened. The day Benoit happened, something within the back of my brain, you know, it's like when you play video games in that little OCD section in the back of your brain clicks, and then you go, oh, okay, I got to like find this one thing, or I got to do this one thing. Something told me to Wikipedia Chris Benoit, and there were conflicting reports at the time that he had died, Nancy died, Daniel died, and then something was going on with Wikipedia, and it turns out that somebody hacked the page. And then you go to Raw, where the storyline was supposed to have been the demise of the Mr. McMahon character, because if you guys remember, he died like the week before in the explosion, a limo explosion, and it was supposed to be his funeral. And then you see R.I.P. Chris Benoit. I remember just seeing that and my jaw dropped, and seeing Vince come out and say, tonight's storyline was supposed to have been the demise of my character, Mr. McMahon. However, a tragedy has taken place. Chris, Nancy, and Daniel have all passed away. And I know we may be jumping ahead, but there's two people that stick out in my mind in that tribute more than anyone. Edge and William Regal are the two that will always stick out to me, because Edge was like, I don't know if I'll ever understand things like this, and I may never understand it. And then the one that really set me off and really began the beginning of the end of my love for the business was when Regal came out and said, at a later date, I wish I could tell you all what Chris Benoit meant to me, but all I can tell you is that I had some of my best matches with him. And something right there said, he did this. I don't know what it was, but whenever Regal spoke, I just had that feeling. And I think the rumor was JBL, right before Regal was about to speak, he spoke up to Michael Cole on the headset, and they found out that Chris killed them. And JBL said, you mean to tell me he killed that poor little boy? And that was the moment we all knew what really happened. And the sad thing is WWE couldn't get out of it because they were in the middle of their 3-hour show. So there was nothing they could do.
WWE should have just cancelled that whole shit. I mean, hindsight's a beautiful thing, but we've got a triple homicide here. Yeah. WWE should just cancel that show that week. You know, and just no tribute show, nothing. You know, anyway, Roberto.
I agree. I was actually just going to say that, because I remember Jim Ross saying in the documentary, he said, show must go on, show must go on. No, you are a pro wrestling program. Like, if there is any shadow of a doubt as to what's going on, I mean, you either do business as usual and then do the tribute show, or, because if you don't have all the facts, you can say something, say, Chris Benoit's no longer with us. We don't have all the details yet. We will, and then they can plan Friday Night SmackDown or whatever it was back then to be the tribute show. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But they didn't have all the facts. They were looking to grab the rating. I'm not saying they were just looking to grab the ratings.
That's the ratings, dude. I hate to say it. It's Vince McMahon in a nutshell.
Reports. Huh?
Yeah, what did you guys say?
Sorry. I just wanted to. I just said they were grabbing the ratings, but continue. I just disagreed on that bit. Way Vince McMahon is, he's callous as fuck. This is the guy who kept the show going on after Owen Hart died in that ring. So he was going for ratings, as far as I was concerned. But please continue, Roberto. I apologize for interrupting.
That's okay. I mean, that's probably one of the factors is why, the show must go on. And it's like, no, it really doesn't have to. I mean, if you do have a product to put out and you want to do business as usual, and then, the one thing with Eddie Guerrero, it was open and shut. Like, it wasn't, it wasn't anything crazy. Yeah, he passed. But it's like there was a lot of mixed signals, and it seemed like nobody knew what was going on. And at that very moment, as a business person, I would have been like, look, either we do the show or we don't, but we can't put like the Benoit thing all over it, because there's a lot of weird conflicting reports coming out. And then on Friday Night SmackDown, they had to come out, and they did honor Nancy and David, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it was ECW the next night.
Oh, well, yeah.
Vince, that was when Vince came out and he was like, okay, here's the deal. Last night on Monday Night Raw, we presented a tribute show. And then he's like, other than my comments, we're not going to mention Chris Benoit again. We're going to try to move forward. And they blacklisted Chris Benoit. And honestly, I know people are going to have their opinions on it. But in my opinion, they did what they had to do. It sucks that it had to happen the way it did. But, you know, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And so we'll quickly go to the chat here. First of all, Mondino, I remember I was watching, but it's such a long time ago, it's leaving my memory a little bit. But yeah, there's a couple of things regarding that Monday Night Raw, by the way. I want to, one thing in particular. There was a match Chris Benoit had, and he was wearing, it was an old match. I think maybe when he was Pegasus Kid. Yeah, and he was wearing a mask and stuff.
Yeah, that was.
But the commentary was, but the commentary was modern. You know, like they just talked to, you know, like it had the King and JR commentating on it, which I found really weird because that means they would have had to record the commentary today. You know, on that day. Weird. Why did they fucking do that? That always made me wonder. Blood Angel 13 has said that if it's Vince McMahon show and he hates to cancel the show, we all know that. But you know, he cancelled shows when there was 9/11. You know, by the way, Ryback mentioned that he couldn't wait to get back on, you know, Believe It or Not Monday and capitalize on it. I totally agree with that. If you watch Ryback's thing on YouTube, he's got a good YouTube channel. He likes to eat burgers a lot. But nevertheless, yeah, the problem is he's just so callous. You know, he as you mentioned, he's very callous, and that's why these particular things happen, because he just doesn't give a damn about the repercussions. And when he deals with the repercussions the way he does, like, you know, blacklist, fuck you, David Benoit, we're not going to do shit for you, even though your fucking father and your mum served this for a long time, we're going to do shit for you. That is Vince McMahon in a nutshell. That's why he's not friends with people like Donald Trump. They're both wankers. So let's go on to part 2 of the show now, because I believe this is where it began with the police officer finding the bodies in the house, because initially people wanted to. I think the WWE was inquiring about Benoit. They got no information. They got no information, and they couldn't get hold of him. And so Benoit made some story about his kids, his wife, and his daughter, and his son having food poisoning. But they never got back to him after that. And he missed, obviously, the pay-per-view. And the police finally comes along and checks him out, and they find the bodies, and they start to put things together. You know, looking for his internet history and stuff like that. And then it didn't take them long, funnily enough, to figure out that Benoit had not only killed his wife, he killed his son. And somebody who so many people have admired for years and still admire today could have done something which was, I think, in a lot of people's minds, way out of character. He might have been quiet and moody. A lot of people have certain characteristics. Killing your wife and son is not a characteristic most people have. Yeah. So to see somebody like this do something like this was, you know, unfathomable. And I found it really hard to contemplate what all of this. It left me puzzled. It left me, I mean, I kind of knew, at the same time I didn't know, and I didn't know how to feel and what to feel, and, you know, were angry, sad, I mean, I think of everything. What about you guys? When you found out that Benoit actually killed his family, how did you feel? I'll start with you, Roberto.
I mean, as I said, Benoit, during his career, Benoit was my second favorite wrestler of all time. I was devastated. I mean, I invested, and I know it sounds stupid, but I invested a lot of fan time, like matches, and investing in his storylines, wanting his career to just skyrocket. And for him to do something like this was just crazy. I mean, as you know, as Chris Jericho said, it's unforgivable. But I'm not going to sit here and shit on him, you know, because there were obviously other factors involved here, which I think some of the brain damage obviously had something to do with it. And I think that he could have gotten help, and it's more probably his doing because he didn't get the help and because of the business. and that he just, you know, that this business just the workhorses just get trampled on. I mean, you're looking at a wheelchair at the age of 50 at this point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't imagine what Jeff Hardy's going to go. Like, Jeff Hardy, with how many spots he's taken, where's he going to be in 10 years? Like, you know, in a wheelchair? Dead?
Yeah. Really makes you think. But for me, it led to the beginning of the end of me really being invested in wrestling as a whole. That was kind of the start of it. It was the darkest day in the history of the business. For me, no doubt about it. And I still have not gotten over it. Same thing with Owen Hart's passing. Those are the two deaths that will always stick with me. And with Benoit, you know, it's like on one hand, you're going to remember him as a great wrestler. You're going to remember all the moments that he gave us and everything. And it's kind of hard to hate on him because of everything he sacrificed for us. But then you look at it like he killed his wife, he killed his kid. And then it's that thing of, can you really be able to forgive Chris Benoit? Like Nancy's sister Sandra has said, maybe someday she'll be able to forgive him, but it's not going to be today.
Yeah, it leaves you very torn. I mean, you remember the wrestler, and you remember, like you only know. The funny thing with Benoit, he's an enigma. We call Jeff Hardy the charismatic enigma. He's no way near an enigma like someone like Benoit. People just knew Benoit as a good wrestler. They didn't really know who Benoit is, But you thought genuinely that this guy who loves his craft, maybe a bit too much, unfortunately, was much. Sorry, let me just quickly read it. What Macho Man was allowed to ask for help, but sorry, you might have to read that, right? Just to understand what you were saying regarding Macho Man, but you're hearing like when Chris Jericho found out that that Benoit died, he pulled over and he started crying. This is the second time I've heard Chris Jericho say that about Chris Benoit. When he first found out, he pulled over and started crying, and his son was in the car with him. And then I was really interested to know how Chavo and Vicky reacted, when they found out Benoit, Nancy, and Daniel had died. And I can imagine Vicky Guerrero, she just lost her shit. Sorry, 1 second, Roberto. I will get to you, mate. Lost her shit, and by Dean, and like I think Chavo Guerrero was looking for answers, and all he got was a hug from fucking Vince McMahon. That must be one hell of a hug. Roberto, what do you want to say?
Oh no, I was just gonna follow. I thought you said you would love to know how Vicky reacted, and I said they said it in there. She let out this shrieking yell that just was like, just the tremendous. But I must have misheard you. But no, I mean and then Dean Malenko had to take her away, or somebody. Was it Dean Malenko?
Yeah, they called everybody. They called everybody to the ring, and Austin was the first one because Stone Cold was there for that McMahon Memorial thing, and he was like, Jesus, it's as if someone died. And then the news broke, and I think the two people that lost it were like Ric Flair and Vicky Guerrero. Like, they just lost their minds. It was so sad.
Yeah, Rick would have known those guys really well.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. Jesus Christ, yeah. I mean, because I think it's just that overall, it was like like 3 people in one day, just dead like that. I mean, 3 people, like Vicky Guerrero said that her and Nancy became best friends. To lose their best friend, her husband's best friend, their kid. Jesus fucking Christ, man. I mean, like I said, she went through more than most people could go through in a lifetime. Incredible. The thing is, when you hear from Vicky, like Vicky the most, I was fascinated most with Vicky Guerrero, and she remembers everything and she talks fondly about it, but she's planted a pole in the ground regarding how she thinks of Chris. She's pissed off with Chris. She is very angry with him for what he did. She said, "How dare you?" I think she said that, didn't she? Yeah. How dare you do this? Yeah,
if he wanted to kill himself, so be it. Those were her exact words.
Yeah.
You didn't have to take your wife and son with you.
Yeah. And like the way, like when you find out how he, like I actually, people said, the rumors were when he killed his wife that he put her in a crippler crossface or something like that. But no, he broke her back apparently with his knee.
Yep.
Like maybe he got her arms and Jesus Christ! I mean, what made him do that?
Well,
someone who's
to go ahead and get into it, because I don't know how much time we've got, but now I think would be the time to have the CTE discussion, like Jason wanted to and all that. But CTE is so common and so scary now in the world of pro wrestling and football. I went back and I watched like Cactus Jack versus Randy Orton from Backlash 2004 about a year ago, and I looked at it and I'm like, I'm glad that we don't have these kind of matches anymore. Nothing this barbaric and this insane. Just because knowing everything we know now about concussions and all the injuries that these guys go through, I'm glad that they don't take the risks that they used to take.
Exactly. The headshots with the chair and blading. If you bleed, it's got to be natural, not because you fucking. It's got. I'm fine with natural bleeding. If it happens, it happens. Let the show go on. You don't need to fucking stop it. So these guys are big lads, unless it's a really bad cut or whatever. You know what I mean? But no more shots to the fucking head. No more diving headbutts. None of that shit. Nothing head orientated. You know what I mean? Because these guys are constantly taking bumps. They're glorified fucking stuntmen, and I don't say that with any fucking animosity. I can never say the word. I don't say it in a bad way. Yes, some words I find it very hard to pronounce. So, they need rest. They need a chance to recoup. They shouldn't have to fucking lose their spot. They shouldn't be fucking flogged out every 5 minutes, with brutal schedules and stuff like that. And then you won't have so many fucking wrestlers dying young or killing their family members or choking while they're fucking brushing their teeth and shit like that. I do put a lot of this on Vince. The guy, he works wrestlers to fucking death, and he's never fucking learned. How many wrestlers?
This is why I'm in the camp of those that say that there needs to be an off season, but sadly we will never get that. I mean, this coronavirus, to get in the current times, is probably about as close to an off season as we're going to get, because this is some very scary shit right now.
They need to rotate. I've always said, Jose, they needed to rotate wrestlers around a little bit. Stop focusing on one fucker as a guy and shit like that. Share the wealth a little bit. I watch. Sorry for going on a tangent here. I watch people like Zach's YouTube channel and all these other wrestlers' YouTube channels. These are talented guys. Heath Slater. Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder. These are talented guys, charisma, but they're on a leash in the WWE. They're made jobbers in the WWE. They've got a chance to accelerate themselves in the company. Zack Ryder made himself a star in the WWE. Thought, fuck you, mate. No, we make stars. We're gonna get you buried like a bastard. We're gonna have your fucking girlfriend make out with Cena. We're gonna fucking throw you in a wheelchair and have your ass kicked by fucking Kane. I mean,
we're gonna put the Intercontinental title on you in an awesome ladder match, only for you to lose it the next night. And then after that, that was it. I mean, he may have won the tag team titles with Kurt Hawkins, but nobody remembers that.
Exactly. But but when you watch these guys and you see these wrestlers and you realize they're very talented, but once again the WWE hates and regardless Daniel Bryan aside, they hate having to fucking listen to their fans. They really fucking do. It's only what they like, and we have to like what they fucking like, and that's one of my issues why I fucking hate that company. But I'm sorry for going on a tangent again. Back to this documentary. So we're on to the funeral now, and we're hearing more on David Benoit, and you find out that we mentioned earlier that he's been blacklisted by the company. They don't want to fucking do anything with David. They don't want to do anything with Nancy's sister, whose name I've forgotten. I apologize, Sandra. Yeah, they want nothing to do with them, and they send one representative from the WWE. I'm not even sure, if certain people who were friends with them were even allowed at that funeral, like Vicky and and Chavo, were they at the funeral? I'm not even fucking sure, because
Vicky
it seemed
said
like
she
the only
didn't go.
representatives, and were they yeah, because the thing is, they wanted to talk about all of this shit, but this is the company they work for. They were worried about losing their fucking jobs. This is another reason why I hate watching the WWE, but I don't want to fucking invest in somebody who's a fucking asshole, aka Vince McMahon.
I can understand where they're coming from a PR standpoint of not mentioning him, but that's about as far as I agree with the WWE. I still think they should have looked after David and said,
yeah, but at the end of the day, you guys are from America, man. You got freedom of speech. Don't fucking suppress it, man. The moment they fucking do that, man, they're being un-American, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm a prick. But nevertheless, nevertheless, it took for these particular people to no longer be in the WWE, like Jericho, like Malenko, like Chavo, like Vicky, for us to get this fucking documentary. It's taken us 13, 14 years for us to get this fucking documentary, unfortunately, to find out the truth and find out more about all of this and the callousness of the WWE. When you hear from David that the only people he had was fucking Jericho and Chavo, it breaks my fucking heart, man. This is a fucking baby. He was a boy. He was a fucking boy at the time. He's still a boy now.
And you want to know what's
like,
even sadder? Nancy should get the credit that she deserves. She should be going in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
But you can't even honor her because of what happened.
Well, but they
should. They shouldn't let people know. It's not like people are unaware. They can't, no one's pretending that fucking Benoit didn't do this shit. But fucking put this woman in the Hall of Fame, regardless. Be smarter than that.
All right, let's. Okay, there's a couple comments here. I at least want to roll through. Is that okay, guys?
Yeah, go ahead.
No problem.
All right. So we'll start at the top. So if you've been waiting for your comment, I mean that's okay. So basically what Blood Angel 13 is saying is that the WWF wellness policy is a joke, and it sounds like it was. Because apparently Eddie and Benoit had been through the wellness policy with flying colors, and yet here's Eddie dying, and he's had tons of steroids in his system when he died.
And not to mention the text messages between Nancy and
we lost him.
Steroids, they're fucking you up, they're hurting you.
I just want to also add, so we just lost you for a second, but like they went from one extreme to the other with their wellness policy. I mean, what they need is to give, they need to give their wrestlers help, not just be strict bastards. Okay, a couple died, one of them did terrible things, so now we're going to treat you all like fucking criminals, and we're going to fucking make sure that we test you for everything and anything, but we're not going to help with you mentally. They just became a strict entity when really they needed to be more compassionate, and they just don't do compassion. They market compassion. You know what I mean? They need to be more compassionate. That's what they need to do.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, yeah, that's definitely, and plus they probably needed like some kind of social worker type person on hand that can monitor the person's like mental health, because there's two things here. There's the physical and then there's the mental. And I mean, like, definitely the physical is definitely being watched nowadays, but like, who's watching after the wrestler's mental health? And I'm not talking about a counselor that you go to. It needs to kind of be like the military, where it's like, all right, this person goes around every quarter or every other month, you have a meeting with this and they check on your health. They check on your mental state, how things are going at home, because this is stuff that matters. And these people put themselves through a lot of physical stuff.
Yeah. Over 320 days a year. They're on the road. They're on the road like almost 52 weeks a year. It's insane.
Yeah.
It really is.
All right. Are we ready to move on to the next one?
Yep.
Yeah, well, hold on. Once again, this is my problem with it, but Mom, because people shouldn't have to fucking live like this. And it's all good living your dream as a fan, being a wrestler and stuff like that, but to be away from your family that much is ridiculous. It really is. Like, he overbooks stuff so fucking much, man. His greed, it disgusts me. Sorry, let's move on.
The next one is basically, I don't remember what the New Jack thing is about, but she said that, or he, I can't tell based on, I think it's a she based on the picture. But I pissed about Benoit. What did New Jack do? I remember there was something with him, but I don't remember.
I have no idea.
His is next week. That one I'm going to watch, the New Jack documentary, to see what they talk about.
He's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah, he's insane.
Oh, okay.
He's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah.
He's fucking nuts. That's all I know about New Jack, is that you don't want to be wrestling with him. He'll fucking kill you. It's reckless.
Oh well, they're just saying what you guys just said. Next week is New Jack.
Yeah, next week is his.
I don't know who this person is. This person's saying I thought it was beautiful.
That's Boss Man, by the way.
Huh?
He's my mate, Boss Man.
Oh, he said I thought it was beautiful, and I don't know what it's in reference to, but.
Hello, Gary. Nice to see you, mate. Thanks for popping by. Blood Angel at the bottom here.
Yeah, so is everything else. New Japan, ROH, MLW, all shut down due to the pandemic. Yep.
That's really what it should be. I mean, especially the immunocompromised, they really just need to work on that. Like, I mean, empty arenas, okay, but it's like, I mean, I don't know. Everyone's just trying to survive with the way that this is going to hit the economy.
Yeah, this is going to suck.
So yeah, I mean, everyone's like, oh, once everything opens back up, it's gonna be great. No, it's not. It's gonna
suck.
It's gonna suck. And then the last one that I'm gonna bring up is Blood Angel again, talking about David and Sandra being blackballed by everybody except Chavo and Jericho, which was really the saddest part, because you know what, I'm very happy that the WWE helped the Guerrero family out, like, as much as they did, but like, why would you blackball like Nancy's part of the family and Chris's side of the family? Like, they didn't do anything.
The kid, for fuck's sake, was 14 years old at the time, I think, when this happened. I mean, come on, guys. You can't send, like, Vince can't, call him up and say, hey, I'm sorry to hear about your dad. I'm sorry that we got to do what we got to do, but we're still going to be here if you need anything. You couldn't have at least extended a common courtesy call, something, anything.
Yep. And then, there was a shoot interview where New Jack said he hated Benoit for killing Nancy. Okay, well.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Lots of people do. I mean,
all right.
So
now we got a comment from, the peanut gallery.
Yeah.
Ginger. So the WWE's put a lot of their wellness stuff in place these days in terms of psychologists, but with AEW around, wrestlers are having more leeway and time off these days. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, they should really do a rotation. These wrestlers should really only be active, I would say, for 4 to 6 months out of the year. Like, and I mean, maybe have them in active reserve, but like, I mean, really these, and that's also a way to kind of spread the championship wealth around. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have these guys that have had the titles for like 394 days or something like that. Like, that's too much. Like, I get bored with that. Like, when Cena had the belt for over a year and a couple months, it was so boring, because it's like, it's only Cena. And and even when somebody that I like has the title that long, even when somebody has the title that long that I love, it's still boring. It's like, I want to kind of see them wrestle somebody else, let somebody else get their time. And then just, so I think, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it's the predictability of the WWE, which is another thing why I can't stand watching them. But like, I hate seeing guys you know are going to win and people you don't think are going to win. I mean, like when Brock Lesnar beat Undertaker, that was great. I didn't see that fucking coming, but the match itself was shit, because no one was tuned into it until he got fucking pinned. But everyone thought it would be just generic win for fucking Undertaker. But that one
should have been a generic win for Undertaker, because that was bullshit.
Yeah, I'm still
mad. But the match was shit anyway.
Still not happy.
But the match was shit because after so many people who had all lost to Undertaker, some of them had like fought Undertaker more than once, like Kane, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels, and they all fucking lost to him. And so when Brock Lesnar fucking came along, like, yeah, who gives a fuck? He's gonna lose to him too. But he did it, and that was the only surprise. Not the match itself. No one gave a fuck about. No one was tuned into that match. They all fucking talking to each other and shit. And next thing you know, Brock Lesnar, Undertaker, like, oh fuck, can't believe it. But nevertheless,
there are two.
That's irrelevant.
There are two people that I think should have beat the Undertaker: CM Punk or
Yeah,
Daniel
definitely.
Bryan.
Yeah, I could see that.
CM
Those are the
Punk
two people that one of those two
100%.
should have beat The Undertaker to push them over the edge and get them into the main event spotlight like consistently. But
Yeah, but when they put it on Brock, it ultimately meant nothing.
it meant nothing. No.
It meant
Yep.
nothing. They gave it to a part-timer who fucking shitted on the company, while
I don't
people
know.
who've dedicated themselves to wrestling don't get shit. You know what
I
I
don't
mean?
know how,
It's the
I don't
weird
know how we're doing
mindset
on
of
time,
McMahon.
but I don't know how we're doing on
That's
time. But
fine.
I've got one last topic to bring up regarding this whole Benoit.
Yeah,
thing.
let's get back on topic. So
The Hall of
Yeah.
Fame. We need to talk about that. The people
Yeah.
that say that he deserves to go in the Hall of Fame. If you want the WWE to die and go out of business, by all means, put the man in the Hall of Fame, because that's the only way it's going to happen, in my view.
Yeah.
I
But
mean-
why in the Hall of Fame? No way, dude.
Yeah, they
You
won't
can't.
put him
You
in.
can't.
They're not
No,
going to
but
put him
I
in
don't
there.
want him. No, you can't put him in, man. You can't put a fucking murderer in the Hall of Fame, man. No.
And I know
you
people are
just
going to
can't.
bring Jimmy. I know people are going to bring Jimmy Snuka up in the conversation because of what he did,
What
or
the fuck did he
supposedly
do?
did. You don't know about the Jimmy Snuka story?
I heard about it,
No,
but
go on.
He
Enlighten me.
so
Maybe I do.
back in 1983, I guess like Jimmy Snuka was wrestling at a house show or something, and I guess he came back and found his girlfriend all beat and all fucked up, and people think that Jimmy Snuka killed his girlfriend, and it took him 32 years to finally face charges for that shit. It was some crazy shit, man.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. If he's been proved guilty, for a court of law, then he can't be in the fucking Hall of Fame. As well.
Yeah.
Take him out of it.
Sadly, though, we're never going to know because he's dead. So we will never know the truth, unfortunately. But with this whole Benoit thing, it's like fans still like to bring up, Benoit should get in the Hall of Fame. I'm like, no.
Nancy should go in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Woman.
Yeah.
Like
I agree
they should induct a woman. Like I think Chris Jericho said that in the documentary. You should introduce. You should just call her Nancy.
No, don't sugarcoat it. Don't sugarcoat it. Nancy fucking Benoit. That's her name. Put her in as fucking Nancy Benoit. Let's not bullshit it, man. Let's not make it a work. Her name is Nancy Benoit. You can use a maiden name if you want, but let's just acknowledge it, man. They can't sugarcoat it.
Yeah, but as far as Chris Benoit goes, it's like even JR said in the documentary, if he was here himself, he would tell you putting me in the Hall of Fame would take everything out of it because it would be such a distraction because of what happened. So, yeah, there's no way he's ever going to get inducted in the Hall of Fame. It will never happen. People have got to let that go.
Okay, now, sorry, go on. You want to say more?
No, I was just going to say, if it didn't happen in 2008, the year after he died, it's not going to happen now. Got to let it go, people.
Yeah, for sure. Let's not debate this anymore regarding Benoit being in the Hall of Fame. The guy's done something so fucking heinous that you can't reward him for that. Yeah, you know what I mean? Regardless, you can't give him a reward after being a fucking murderer. Anyway,
here's the deal. I will say this. Is his Hall of Fame accomplishments career worthy? Like, Hall of Fame worthy? Yes. Everything he ever did. However, those last 3 days are what did it. Those last
I mean,
3
I was
days,
about to say, one day changed his entire career.
Everything.
Yep. Yeah. Like, and that's the problem is that, like, if he were still alive and none of this happened, I'd absolutely 100,000% agree. He's my second favorite wrestler of all time. But, I mean, what he did is unforgivable. What he did negates everything that he did beforehand. And unfortunately, that he negated a lot. He was a great husband and this is from the documentary. He was a great husband. He was a great father. But I mean, that's like me going and killing my kids and my girlfriend. It's like, I'm not going to be a good father and a good boyfriend for, if I kill them.
Yeah.
So yeah. Just because I've been those good things up to this point does not mean that I had one bad day and I killed them. Well, yeah, that's the point is that you can't, that negates everything that came before.
Yep. I mean, Benoit was a wrestler. Yes, I'll say this. Benoit was a wrestler. Loved him. I'm not going to deny everything he did, but those last 24 hours changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my view on it.
And that's the most unfortunate part.
if Benoit had just killed himself, let's just say Benoit committed suicide. You know, he didn't die from an overdose like Eddie did, or whatever, however Eddie died.
Easily, without a doubt.
It'll be a Hall of Fame without a doubt. Even though suicide is frowned upon by many cultures, I would still Hall of Fame him because you know he took his own life and nobody else's. You know, and people would understand. You know, with all the shit that's gone in his life, you know, the year earlier, you know, people would understand that. But no, after this, no. But I want to conclude what we've been talking about with a happy note in showing why fucking people love Chris Jericho. He's a fucking diamond geezer, mate. I mean, it's hard to believe that after 13, 14 years, that David and Sandra were told that they didn't want to see each other. You know, who set that shit up? I had no fucking idea. But at least Jericho did the right thing by bringing them together.
Yep.
And I fucking loved it.
Both of them are always going to have that pain there, but I hope that one day they'll both find peace. That's my hope for both of them.
I think it was insinuated that it was Benoit's parents who didn't want them to meet. Like, yeah, I think that was kind of the thing.
Yeah. So it was really nice to see that, you know, like Jericho, class act. You know, when David was trying to mention some things, and he just lost it for a little bit because he just got very emotional. Who was there to hug him? You know, Sandra, Chavo.
And Chavo.
You know, yeah, you know, I've got so much respect for Chavo Guerrero. Such a nice guy, such a cool guy. You know, and so
underrated.
Yeah, of course. You know what I mean, because he's small and stuff. You know what? You know, if Eddie Guerrero was still alive, yeah, fucking he might still be Kerwin White. You know what I mean? Because the moment Eddie Guerrero died, fucking, you know, he went back to his old fucking gimmick again. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he went back to his old music again, and he beat JBL, probably the biggest win of his entire career. You know, to see what he did for David, you know, class act. It ended on a really happy note and positive. And I'm hoping. I mean, I don't think David will ever wrestle in the WWE. He looks kind of scrawny. I don't know where he will wrestle, but he is a Benoit in the day, and maybe somebody might want to use him just for that. Who knows? Maybe we'll see him in our screens in the future. AEW, who knows? You know, he's got some friends. He's got friends there. You know, who knows? So, did you guys enjoy that last part of the show where Sandra and David got together?
Yeah, I thought it was a bittersweet moment. You know, I mean, it's sad because given the circumstances, but I'm glad that it seems like they're both finding their own way of healing. And, you know, they may never fully get over this, but at least now they can try to reconnect and build that bridge and try to deal with this together, because for the rest of their lives, especially David, he's going to have to live with that. And I feel sorry for him. My heart aches for the guy.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you know, he got bullied because of his name. And, I mean, what his dad did.
Yeah. It's amazing. He still considered his dad a hero after what he did. I don't know how to take that personally.
Well, that's because
that's how he feels. That's how he feels.
No, I feel like the way he sees is that he knew how good of a father his dad was. He knew how good of a husband his dad was. Just as we were saying, those last
24 hours did everything.
Yeah. So I mean, it you know, because it seemed like Benoit was a good person, and he made a huge wrong mistake, and he probably, and not even a mistake, he made a huge wrong choice, and there was definitely extreme factors involved, including like this brain damage and everything that did not help. Because if you've ever dealt with anybody with TBIs, you know, with, you know, traumatic brain injuries and stuff like that, they just don't there's no filter. There's no filter between their actions and what they do. And Benoit, they even said in the documentary, Benoit definitely had the CTE or what, I don't remember the acronym.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was so somebody who doesn't watch wrestling anymore.
Go ahead, mate.
Somebody who doesn't watch wrestling anymore. I found this one of the best documentaries I've seen in a long time. I was totally involved in this, and
hear me?
It's a shame. Yeah, we can hear you, mate.
I think you cut out for a second, but go ahead, Zam.
I was just saying, you know, I'm very. It's a shame it had to be about something so tragic, but nevertheless very enthralling. I've got nothing really more to say other than it's been a great documentary, and thank you very much for watching, everyone. Would you guys like to say anything before we end this stream? I think we've spoken enough.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to doing it again sometime. We'll have to pick another wrestling-related topic.
Yeah, well, maybe we can start doing some more. We can keep an eye on these Dark Side of the Ring shows and do some more reviews on them in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm game.
It'll be interesting. It's been fun.
Just for me, just please like and subscribe and leave a comment. I mean, you know, it's okay to disagree. It's just be respectful to one another. That's it.
Yes, I agree. Okay, so thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Have a nice day. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You know, we don't do this sort of stuff regularly, but you will see us again for sure. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.